I cannot believe this. I, Rylanor, member of the Emperor's children, venerable of the Palatine host and proud servant of the Emperor, can't even get this minuscule device to work. I will try again. Perhaps if I turn these dials and connect this wire. Wait. Yes, I can hear it again. Perhaps if I listen to my favorite podcast, Chaos Divided, with Blushing Noise Marine and Nurgle Snurgle before I turn this contraption into a beacon to summon my lord to his doom. But perhaps just one more episode.
Welcome to Chaos Divided, your weekly dose of wholesome hammer. If you're a fan of what we do, we hope you'll subscribe and follow us along, and if you'd like to support us directly, you can find us on patreon.com/Chaos Divided. We're chatting this week about Rylanor, the Ancient of Rites. Still don't know who he is, but we'll get into that. And this week's quote is by Rylanor himself. You betrayed us, your sons. You led us here to die. There is no forgiveness for that. None. You must die by my hand. The Emperor's justice will fall upon you. Not even Fulgrim, the Illuminator, can escape the Life Eater.
I mean, that's basically the story right there. Like, he's not that big of a character, but he's a very, like, important character in the few things he does in like the heresy, and I think he's also just a very cool character
to a point. If it wasn't for Rylanor's one little decision, the Horus heresy could have went a completely different direction.
Oh yeah, Horus very likely could have won.
Yeah, it's very true. But before we get into that, let's get into like exactly who Rylanor is and why he is called the Ancient.
We'll also introduce it's TeamBloodGod, obviously, with us again.
Oh, hi everybody. Sorry. It's kind of just reflex. I just start talking. You don't need to know who I am. I'm just that disembodied voice who floats around the background. I'm the servitor.
But for any new listeners out there, this is
our resident lore expert slash corn berserker
slash natural
slash noise marine organ player slash plague marine knife sharpener slash I don't do zine.
You're an organ player for Slanesh.
I saw a picture of one playing a piano with a demonette and a dress that was singing. And I was like, yes, that's cool.
Clarify.
It's a noise marine in the tux playing the piano. It was pretty baller, if you ask me.
Oh
yes. It was
that's the organ. Too. That's the organ.
Yeah. I don't think he's catching on to.
No, he's absolutely not.
Oh, probably not. No, I'm a little bad.
But... This is the Ron Jeremy story all over again.
Yeah.
Jarrett has arrived.
Okay, let me slow it down for you.
I have now caught on.
There's many organs.
All right, we get it. This is hit the beep.
Anyways,
right.
This is our blood guide. We love you.
Hi.
Hey.
But yes,
Rylanor.
Rylanor is
Where do we? Yeah.
Well, we were talking. I feel like he's gotten a lot of because he's he appears in like the first few books of the Horus Heresy series, and that's like where he mostly like is from. And I noticed recently that he's like suddenly getting like meme status, and he's like suddenly like this like somewhat beloved character. And I was like, you know what? I remember like reading through those books and being like, oh, Rylanor is kind of a bit of a cool guy. Like, that's a cool story. And now he's like getting his moment in the sun. So I figured we should talk about him.
When he's spoken about in the Horus Heresy books, is he the Space Marine or is he a Dreadnought?
He's a Dreadnought at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was earlier in the Great Crusade where he was interred within a Dreadnought sarcophagus. And the particular one that he's interred in is a Redemptor, I believe.
He's like one of the original Emperor's children. Like he would have he fought with the Emperor like through like the Soul System.
Yeah.
Like he's like
He's like an OG, like he, since the beginning.
He's like up there with like Fabius Bile and Ahriman as far as like he's been around since the beginning.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons why he has the title Ancient of Rites.
Now, I guess like before we get into the story and like why we talk about the dreadnoughts is I think there's probably some people that may not know, but dreadnoughts are former Space Marines, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And when their body is just too
when a Space Marine's body has been ravaged beyond all belief on the battlefield, or for whatever reason, shape or form, but they still have the will to live, they'll usually be interred within a dreadnought, and that consists of them being put in this like sack of amniotic fluid with tubes and wires attached to their whatever's left of them. Some of them might be a torso with maybe an arm left. Some of them are just a torso. Some of them are just like a rib cage and part of a lung and a heart and a head. It's like whatever's left of this Marine, if he's still like, I still fight for the Emperor, they will put him inside one of these things.
So are dreadnoughts mostly in pain?
Oh yeah. That's partly why they like shut them down. They go into like stasis.
Yeah, they can only handle so much for so long. Yeah, they're not awake all the time. Some of them are. There are some that are. Like the older of relic dreadnoughts did have the ability to stay awake longer, but the newer ones they have they can't. It's not possible for them to be awake, because for being awake for so long, it messes with their head. There's some of them that don't even realize that it is the 31st millennia. They still think it's like either the Horus Heresy or the Great Crusade. And some of them actually go mad too. So,
to correct you, you said 31st. I think you meant the 41st.
So, sorry. They think it's the 41st millennia. Well, I mean, and vice versa too. A lot of crazy stuff happens. Just think if you were still alive and put inside of like a little box that was pitch black all the time, and you're just alone in there with your thoughts, and you're shut down to sleep, and you wake up, could be weeks, could be months, could be years, could be centuries later, and they need you, and you're just like, it's probably a very, very hard life for them. But they live to serve. That's what they do.
Gosh, is real.
Yep, it is. Rylanor was a little bit different. He was a particular dreadnought type that actually could stay online longer.
Yeah.
Especially when he would have to be there for the rites, all the different ceremonies, which is why he was called the Ancient of Rites. In the Emperor's Children Legion, being given the title of the Ancient of Rites, it basically made it so that Rylanor was present for like all the big ceremonies, like inductions, rising in ranks, or even like big speeches by captains or speeches by the primarch. It also gave him certain privileges, and one of them was to actually be part of the inner circle of the Emperor. Sorry, not the Emperor. The Emperor's Children Primarch Fulgrim himself, which alongside with Eidolon, Fabius, and Chaplain Charmosian. So he was like in with the boys.
That's a cool.
Well, and I think early on, like Fulgrim quite respects him too. Like he's not like this.
How did he earn that right?
I think because he's just been around so long, and like he was like fearsome. Like talking about like he was a dreadnought who like was actively like participating in like duty. They didn't just bring him up to like throw him on a planet to kill a bunch of people. Like he was walking around like on the ship, like doing stuff day in, day out.
And actually giving commands to other people. Like usually dreadnoughts don't give commands to anybody. He's actually commanding forces and telling them what to do. And yeah, he's a living relic. He's a relic from before the Horus Heresy, before the Great Crusade, and like when the Emperor was first starting to get his armies ready to go into space. So he's been through it all. That's why he kind of got that title and that respect from Fulgrim. It's like, you've seen it all. You've seen more than me.
Like he's literally one of the like Space Marines. It's the reason why like the Emperor's Children are the Emperor's Children, and they have the Palatine Aquila, and like he's one of the like 300 that survive until they find Fulgrim. So he's like literally like prior to finding Fulgrim, Emperor's Children were actually put as commanders of other legions. So Rylanor also had like respect amongst other legions. Like it wasn't uncommon to have Emperor's Children commanders for like, if there wasn't a Primarch around, Emperor's Children legionaries would act as the like overarching commander for campaigns. And that was what Rylanor did before like Fulgrim was found. So he was like, and I actually think it was actually monofilament that got him. Like he's like gets like torched by like an Eldar weapon, like monofilament wire.
Yeah,
basically
yeah,
blends you
one.
inside
like,
of your armor.
Yeah, they're terrifying. So you ever see those Eldar models, Snurgle, that have that wrist gauntlet on them?
Oh,
it's a needle. If you ever see it, it almost looks like a needle. That thing, they plunge into your body, and it unleashes like blushing
they
noise.
They blend you from the inside.
Yes, they do. It's a wire. It's a metal or alien metal wire that goes in your body and just goes.
Oh, you've talked about this.
Yeah. And he survives.
And it pulls back out.
How?
Barely. Like, well, he's a space marine. The different operations that they go through give him like organs and chemicals that can shut down certain parts of his body. They even have an organ that allows space marines to go into a comatose state to keep them alive as long as possible so they can be recovered.
Does he ever talk about how it felt?
I don't think so. Because he's kind of that like very stoic really. Emperor's Children. Like he's like,
that's not something you forget.
Oh, definitely not.
Well, no, he's like literally just like kind of meat paste shoved in like this sarcophagus. Like he's like you know, when we say like, oh, dreadnoughts are usually pretty mortally wounded, like he's on the top end of the like mortally wounded. Like as far as like dreadnoughts that shouldn't be walking around day to day, he would be on that
list. He's one of them
because there's just very little
the
left.
story of him, like when he, we'll get into when we get to see him further on, but it describes what his torso looks like, and he's literally just barely a torso and a head. That's it. There's nothing else to him. Everything else is pipes, wires, tubes, and just fluid leaking out of him.
Who put him together?
Well, it would have been Fabius Bile that would have kept him alive and got him inside the dreadnought.
Wow.
Yeah.
So good,
but that's the thing. Like space marines can. Space marines are almost like orcs. They can come back from a lot of stuff. Like
if they believe.
Well, that's the thing. If they collect a marine off the ground and bring him to the apothecaries, they technically can rebuild you like 80% of your body. For instance, here on Blackheart, his entire his whole left side or right side is just gone. So the leg, the arm, his chest, half of his face. But they gave him an entirely new half that they have to constantly maintain, but he's up and walking. So space marines can deal with a lot of damage. So the fact that he is just literally a piece of meat with a brain, yeah, it tracks.
Yeah. And he is like when they say the ancient, like he was responsible for like bringing in neophytes and like deciding like who would ascend to being a space marine. Like he's like an important guy in the Legion. And
within the Legion he's very important. Like
he's kind of the one that as the like signs of chaos start appearing in the Emperor's Children, he's kind of like the like disapproving grandmother who's like, shouldn't be playing with this, like
I don't approve of this, and I don't believe the Emperor would either. But then we get to that point right there, the Horus Heresy. So what happened with like that thing we talked about, where the decision that he made that made the little turning. So after the little Istvan battle that was happening before the traitors actually showed themselves, him and Tarvitz had a little conversation on the ship, because if I remember correctly, Sol Tarvitz was a little bit weary of things that were happening behind the scenes with the other people in the Emperor's Children, but there was one thing in particular that he noticed that tipped him off. Lord Eidolon. Eidolon was one of the captains of the Emperor's Children, and he's one of the inner circle of Fulgrim's group, little groupies, along with Rylanor. This was one of the first times that Lord Eidolon didn't want to do the first strike on the planet. He wasn't leading a spear tip. This is a man that wants like glory above all, to like shout to the heavens, I am fantastic, I want glory, look at me, I'm the greatest, and he gives it to somebody else. So right there for Tarvitz, that was like, why is he doing that? I don't like that.
Seems a little
sus,
not guys.
Yeah. So he goes to Rylanor and says, hey, swap seats with me. I'm supposed to go down to the planet. Let me stay on the ship, and you go down because something's not right. And because, like you said, Rylanor was kind of suspicious of things in the beginning already with how the Emperor's children were moving down that weird path, he was like, all right. He didn't question it, which Tarvitz found weird, but he was like, yeah, I'll go. So Sol stayed behind, and Rylanor went down to the planet.
Well, and that's what gives him the time to get the message out about like heresy and what's going on with like Istvan.
Yes.
Which is what kind of like...
But Rylanor was not for the heresy then.
No,
No, he wasn't for the Horus heresy at all.
Oh, when we get to the 40k version of Rylanor, that's pretty evident.
Oh, yes.
He's
still around?
Not anymore. But...
Yes, no.
Oh.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
We'll tell that story.
That's where this... That's
Whoa.
where the subject... That's
it's
where
either a yes or no, but not a...
No, that's where the emotion's going to come in. Just hold on.
Okay.
So, like we were saying, Sol Tarvitz found out that they were being betrayed. He stole a gunship, flew down to the planet, and warned the loyalists that we are betrayed, they're going to strike the planet. And during the battle in the first bombing, they were able to get inside some of the bunkers. A lot of dreadnoughts were taken out while they were on the planet. Some even thought that Rylanor was taken out too, but he did survive the initial bombing. Unfortunately, afterwards, when Angron decided that, you know what, Horus is doing a good enough job. I'm going to go down there and make sure that everything's going just good, right? Let's go down, boys. Come on. And he landed on the planet, started making a big mess. Sol Tarvitz told Rylanor to retreat to a bunker that was underneath the main palace on Istvan. And when he asked him why, he said, there's something down there that's important that I need you to protect. So he went into that bunker, and after the Horus Heresy, that's the last we ever hear of Rylanor.
For 10,000
You don't know if he's dead or not.
Until 10,000 years later.
Oh? But he's alive.
Yeah.
To a point.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, as much as any dreadnought is.
Yeah.
So he's not alive.
So 10,000 years after the Horus Heresy, after the Istvan Massacre, after this has all gone down, there's a beacon that it goes across space, and it gets picked up by a ship of the Thousand Suns. And this message reads out simply, "The Ancient awaits." So, with a little bit of curiosity, Magnus the Red orders his Thousand Sons to go and investigate this site and find out what this beacon is and where it's coming from. So one ship heads out, and it heads towards the beacon, and with some stellar travel and the warp, they get there, and they come to a completely ravaged planet. There's like, it's a husk. It's just a rock floating in space. Yet the beacon is coming from this place. They land, and 3 of them get out. And if I have this correctly, the Thousand Sons that got out were 3 sorcerers named Marshin, Oktar, and Vestario, who was the main leader of the group. So these 3 guys get out, and they follow the beacon through the planet, which eventually leads them to this underground twisting way of like catacombs that lead deeper into the planet. Once they follow them deep enough, they come to an opening that leads them into what looks like an old hangar bay that's been like kind of destroyed. There's a few like old bodies around. I think it was a couple of like Emperor's children bodies around that were like way old. But
like skeleton, dusty.
Yeah, like more like armor that's just lying on the ground, completely covered in dust, like unmoved. And off further into the hangar, they could see, if I remember, a gunship that was crushed by the ceiling, and some kind of figure lying on the ground beside a large object. And when they got a little bit closer, they could tell that it was a downed dreadnought, a purple downed dreadnought. It was missing a leg. Its entire side was completely caved in on the left, so they assumed that the marine inside had been like killed a long time ago. And both of its arms were kind of like stretched to the sky, almost in like, oh, why? This kind of look while it was laying on its back.
Mm-hmm.
And there was something that it was like, I think it was either beside it or underneath it, but it was like covering something. So these Thousand Sons get a little bit closer to inspect it. And as they get close enough, all of a sudden, one of these hands comes down, just grabs one of the Thousand Sons, picks him up. The Dreadnought sits up and levels its arm-mounted, I think it was an assault cannon that Rylanor had, at one of these Marines and goes, "Sup, nerd."
He did not say that.
No, he didn't say "sup, nerd," but that's what I like to think. But he basically said, like, who the hell are you and why are you here? So yeah, he stands up, and now we have these Thousand Sons. One of them is clenched in his grasp, and the one he has the gun pointed at is Vistario, the leader of them. And they basically got their hands up like, whoa, relax. So they start to have a little bit of a conversation because Rylanor's been out for like since the Isfan massacre, so he actually doesn't know that the Thousand Sons had turned to chaos. So these guys kind of try to turn that to their favor, man, yeah, we're still totally loyalists. Yeah, we're working for the Emperor. We just came to check and, see what your beacon was. But Rylanor's not buying it. He can definitely tell there's some form of like chaotic taint after being a part of that whole massacre himself, and he doesn't believe what they're selling.
Well, I think one of the legends about Rylanor was he actually could detect a lie from anyone.
Ooh,
like he
he
was like
feeling.
Basically like a lie detector, and very successful. I think there's even a point where he gets mad at Fulgrim because Fulgrim lies to him about something like doesn't even matter. And I think Rylanor is just like, no.
He hates like little white lies.
Yeah, like big lies, little lies. Like he's just like, no, truth. That's it. Don't care. Like,
yeah. I want the truth. Tell me exactly what's happening. So these guys start to talk to him a little bit about what's going on. And when it comes down to is he tells these Thousand Sons that I'm not waiting here for you. This beacon wasn't meant for you. And no sooner does he say that, someone snakes his way out of the shadows to come say hi to one of his sons. Slither, 4 arms, big pair of wings, pretty face.
Fulgrim?
Yes. Fulgrim shows up. And he looks at Rylanor and says...
And Fulgrim's demon at this point.
Oh, yes. It was meant for me, wasn't it, my son? And Rylanor was taken aback at first because he'd never seen Fulgrim like this.
Oh.
He'd only seen Fulgrim like when he was his normal, like, primarch father. But this was shocking. And they have a bit of an exchange. They go back and forth, and Fulgrim's like talking to him and trying to twist Rylanor into maybe rejoining the Legion. And then he has that quote up there that you said at the beginning where that's his remark to Fulgrim when he says that.
Is Rylanor still stuck underneath the rock?
Nope, now he's standing up. And as he says that to Fulgrim, he reveals what was behind him. The object that he was hiding for those 10,000 years that he had prepared and summoned these guys there. Also, little minor note, the beacon that Rylanor had used to get these guys to come to his planet, come to the planet, wasn't even actually like a regular beacon. It was an Emperor's Children noise marine noise weapon that he had took and refashioned with a vox emitter to turn into a beacon. That's impressive. When you really think about that for a second. He took a gun and a vox emitter in a dreadnought body with one giant
with
arm
a power
and pincer
fist,
fingers.
just like
yes, and managed to build this intricate device to get these guys here. It's very, very impressive. Extremely impressive. Getting back to the point.
So they're squaring off.
They're squaring off. They have their.
Do they
chit-chat
fight
back and
or
forth.
just through words?
It's through words at first because Fulgrim's like bristling with pride. He's talking about
Look at me now.
Yeah, look at me now. I am perfection. Rylanor's like you're not perfection. You're
Ew.
disgusting. This is what our brothers have turned to. This is what you have become. And he tells him like you don't understand. Maybe if you join our side and still come with us, there's still an opportunity for you to make amends and join our ranks. But he's like, no, Not gonna happen. And he steps out of the way, and what he was hiding was a virus bomb. One of the same things that Horus used to bomb the planet.
Like the thing they use for
The-
Terminatus.
Yeah.
Like the planet that he's on right now.
Yeah.
Yes. So Horus Lupercal used the virus bombs before to try and kill all the Marines during the first Istvan battle, when the one I was talking about earlier, when Angaron came down. What the virus bomb is, it's a nuclear warhead that has a center in it that is filled with a toxin. It's described as being like a green, thick, brackish kind of liquid, more on the side of like black than green.
How's that not a Death Guard thing?
Because at first the only ones who were allowed to issue that order was the War Master and the Emperor.
Okay.
Because of this is how deadly this stuff is. So when it hits and this glass thing breaks, this material expands out. And what it's designed to do, it's called the Life Eater virus, because it dissolves all biomass on the planet within the range that this thing can reach, which is miles. It spreads out. This is plants, water, humans, anything living, any organic matter. It goes all over it and burns it away into a black sludge that just it melts you down. Then it releases a gas, and it fills the atmosphere with this gas, which is highly combustible. And then above in the ship,
Just a match.
literally that's what they do. They fire one little beam down and it ignites the entire planet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I said,
It's
one of
devastating.
those destroys a planet. And I think Istvan 3 got hit by many of them.
They fired 6.
Yeah. Because they
Just to make sure.
Yeah.
well the Space Marine power armor is somewhat resistant. I think it can survive one Life Eater. Because the seals don't burn away as fast as the virus itself does.
As long as they have the helmet on.
Yeah, so if they're
Exactly,
secured in
There's
there,
that many virus bombs.
so yeah, they dropped a bunch to try and kill all of them on there.
Is there a limited amount of these things?
Not unlimited, but the ships that
No,
can
unlimited.
carry-
Is there only a certain amount out there, or?
Yeah, there's only
But there's a
certain
lot
amount.
more
They're
than you
not-
would
I don't
think for
believe
how
they're-
powerful they are.
Yeah.
They're
they're
six.
not in-
We have
they're
a
not in
spare
production
6 for
anymore.
a planet.
They're not in production anymore. They don't make them anymore. That's old Great Crusade technology. They don't touch that at all. So if you find something like that, that's a serious weapon.
Well, that's the weapon of
Right.
this Space Marine Legion can't bring this planet to compliance. You use a Life Eater. It's if the full weight of a Legion can't do it, you just make the
We'll wipe
planet not exist.
And we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah.
That was the Imperium's motto.
Okay, so it's behind Rylanor.
Oh yeah, so Rylanor steps out and he has a Life Eater virus bomb sitting right behind him. And he basically goes, "Oh, Dad's here. Hit the big red button," and activates it.
And
The Thousand
So
Suns
it's
hold it in
about-
stasis.
Yeah, it's about
with their
Psychic
with their
power.
magic.
They hold
So-
it in so that it doesn't actually explode, but it's exploding very, very slowly within their shielding.
Yeah, but the speech that he had said right before it was about to explode was that was the hard one. He had stepped out of the way and detonated the bomb, and he said to his primarch, and I quote, I have it right here, I'm going to read it off. "All we have left between us is that we will die here together. I am Rylanor of the Emperor's Children, the Ancient of Rites, venerable of the Palatine host, and proud servant of the Emperor of Mankind, beloved by all. I reject you now and always." And he detonated the bomb. Unfortunately, Blushing Noise Marine said, the Thousand Suns sorcerers erected a shield around the bomb and stopped it from not detonating, but condensed the explosion within inside of it, holding the Life Eater virus. And in that moment, Fulgrim seized his chance and leaped upon Rylanor, and they had a vicious battle back and forth. Rylanor did his best to fight off Fulgrim, but it was all in vain because Fulgrim was a demon prince now. He tore his body apart. He ripped off his arm. He sliced off his gun, tore apart the other leg, and wrenched open Rylanor's sarcophagus, and from what I understand, dug his hand into what was left of Rylanor's chest and ripped the marine out of the sarcophagus. The Thousand Sons could feel the emotions coming from that moment, and what he could feel, the one Vistario, all he could feel was malice and pride and happiness from Fulgrim in that he was able to do this to Rylanor and take away his moment of victory. His moment to, like, take back something that was taken from him a long time ago and teach his father a lesson. But he could also feel something else. He could feel Rylanor and his unmoving, unstoppable will of defiance, even in this moment that he was being torn. I'm getting emotional right now just thinking about it. That he was being torn apart by his father and he had still lost. He was still defiant.
And even, like, Fulgrim's actually using, like, his psychic energy to try and, like, taint Rylanor's, like, corpse to chaos. So, like,
and break him.
To break him.
And after feeling that, Vistario, the Thousand Sons sorcerer, stepped forward and said, "Fulgrim?" And he turns and looks at the sorcerer with a smile. He shakes his head and says to Fulgrim, "Rylanor deserves better than you. He deserves better than all of us." And he draws his bolt pistol and shoots this Chaos Space Marine in the head that has the Kind Shield and blows up the entire room.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Fulgrim in there?
All of them. He took his gun out and shot his own brother in the head who had the shield around the Life Eater virus and let them all die. And in that moment, everything went white.
Is that because the sorcerer remembered
Yeah. Feeling that emotion come from Rylanor gave him something that he hadn't felt since the Horus Heresy, since the Great Crusade. And it touched him in such a way that he felt that he had to honor this warrior for everything he had done. He'd been alive before any of them, before Fulgrim, before any of these guys.
Oh, I see. He was older than Fulgrim.
Yeah. Like Blushing Noise Reed said, Rylanor was part of the first 300 Emperor's children that served with the Emperor before and during the Great Crusade.
So is it safe to say that the Emperor making Primarchs was his biggest mistake?
Could be. It possibly could be.
It depends on what the, like we've talked about that, like, what the end game for the Primarchs was, we don't know. Like, we don't know if the heresy was on purpose. But I think Fulgrim would probably be his... between Fulgrim and maybe Kurz would probably be the Emperor's biggest disappointments. As far as, like, greatest potential to greatest, like... honestly, I think Fulgrim would probably be even more disappointing than Kurz. Because Kurz is, like...
More so than Horus, though?
But again, if the heresy was supposed to happen, then Horus did his job. Whereas, like, Fulgrim just, like, doesn't really do anything. He just kind of, like, screws around.
Fulgrim gets... Yeah, he gets corrupted, like, relatively early.
He's, like Fulgrim's a demon prince before, like, even, like, Lorgar is fully committed to, like, chaos. like, not even, like, oh... Fulgrim's like further, like Fulgrim's just like, yeah, I'll be a demon prince. Like, no worries, guys. Like,
yeah, make me full.
Like,
yeah,
let's go.
He was the one that, like, out of all of them, he was the one that was questing out to get it.
Like, well, even like Ispan 3 had noise marines. Noise Marines are like
Yep.
fallen Emperor's children to Slaanesh. Isfan 3 is the first part. It's the beginning of the Horus Heresy, and there are Noise Marines. There are no Plague Marines. There are no Khorne Berserkers. There are no Rubric Marines, but there are Noise Marines.
They called them the Cacophony.
Like they're, and this is part of what, like, why Rylanor is so angry, is because like his legion falls so fast. Like they don't even try and help themselves. Like they literally are just like, whoa, there's another way of doing things, we're out. Like, bye-bye, Emps. Like, we're gonna go be
We get to enjoy what we do? Slay. Yeah.
Like,
it's bad.
Slaanesh.
Because I'm pretty sure it was, like, in order of people that turned, like, started to turn, was Lorgar, Fulgrim, and then Horus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like Lorgar was like found out about the Chaos Gods and already was on that path. Fulgrim picked up a sword that would basically said no bad touch and turned him into that. And Horus was corrupted, and after that Horus talked to the other guys and they were like, hey, let's do this crusade, man, let's kill our dad, let's go.
But like Angron turns because he hates the Emperor. Like Angron is like rebellious, not tainted by chaos. Perturabo is rebellious. Kurz is rebellious. Like Mortarion is rebellious. Like they don't turn because of chaos. They turn because they hate the Emperor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're mad at him for what they did to him.
Yeah.
Sorry, what he did to them. Sorry.
So like,
whereas Fulgrim wasn't mad, he was just like, oh, chaos, sweet.
Yeah, no, like 100%. He's just like, I will have that, please. Yes, thank you. So like,
yeah, can I get one of those, please?
Like that's part of why
a new shiny sword, yes, queen, yes. And he didn't even hesitate. He didn't hesitate at all. They're like, maybe you should.
It's a demon sword. It might
hey, Dad,
take hold of you.
Maybe we shouldn't pick up the demon sword that we just, beat an entire population that had forearms and had snake bodies.
Yeah, but it's so pretty.
Why you picked it up? All right, cool.
It's cool
all
looking,
right.
It's cool. It's a good sword.
Yeah.
Like I feel like even like Primarch
pretty.
101 is like,
balanced.
don't take the weapons from like the Xenos you kill, and Fulgrim's just like, nah, I can handle it. Don't worry.
Totally the kid that's messing around with a Ouija board.
The Emperor obviously never taught them don't touch.
He's messing with a Ouija board at 3:30 in the morning. Black cats are walking about in the attic. Just all like the cliches of like, something's gonna go down. Yeah, okay.
You know what though? None of the other Primarchs take like Xenos weapons. Like it's pretty exclusively Fulgrim, who's just like, I need a trophy.
Yeah.
I need evidence that I destroyed this like entire society and civilization, and then gets in and is just like, should I do all of the worst impulses I have?
The others do, but they don't use them. They have them on display behind a glass case or a laser case that no one can touch.
So yeah, this is part of what they like, because Rylanor is proof, and even Fabius Bile to a lesser extent is also proof that the Emperor's children like aren't inherently flawed. It's that like Fulgrim is so flawed that he drags so many of them down with it, because part of it's even like the reason why so many of them fall to Slaanesh is because like Fulgrim has pushed them so hard, but like Rylanor is one of the ones that doesn't get pushed because he's just like, he's already proven himself. He doesn't care. Same with like Fabius pushes himself. He doesn't really care about Fulgrim. Fulgrim just gives him like license to crazy, and he goes with it.
I'm pretty sure Fulgrim maybe thought that Rylanor would just be like, okay, yeah, I'll be down with this.
Yeah, because he was so arrogant.
He probably well, yeah, exactly. He thought, well, if I have Charmosian and I have Eidolon and I have Fabius, obviously Rylanor's going to be on my side for this treachery. I'm sure he'll be down.
Bros for life.
Yeah.
We're all ride and dies, right?
Yep. Which is why he was like, yeah, I'll switch seats with you. I'll switch seats with you, bud. I'll go down there and see what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to what had happened after that gigantic explosion. Everyone was dead.
Except.
Well, yeah, except, Fulgrim. He's going to obviously, after some time, rebuild his body back, but...
He get hit by it?
Oh, he got hit.
I think Rylanor
he got
actually had
stabbed.
it in, like, the fist. Like, he actually punches Fulgrim with the Life Eater virus bomb. And it's, like, literally in his, like, at his body. Because the other thing is, as BloodGod was saying, like, Fulgrim rips off the gun and the power fist because Rylanor had emptied the entire, like, autocannon into, like, Fulgrim's belly and was trying to beat him to death with a power fist holding the Life Eater bomb. And part of what actually pulls the punch is the kind shield around the bomb helps deflect some of the, like, force. Because, like, a Redemptor Dreadnought's power fist is similar to, like, getting hit by a freight train.
Yes, very much
Like,
so.
even a Primarch, like, takes that hit and, like, Fulgrim takes it to the face and doesn't, like, get knocked back by it, and it's because of the 1,000
just smiles.
Yeah.
And
that's when he's just, like,
So
rips
after-
the weapons off him and, like, rips his corpse out of the, like, sarcophagus just to, like, watch him die in his hands, basically.
And it was that defiance, that still willing to fight back even in the odds that he knew he was going to die. He still fought against his father and still spit in his face and told him, I'd still deny you. You're not my father. You are nothing to me. That touched those Marines so much that it made a guy shoot his brother in the head. Like, you know what? You deserve a big send-off. Yeah. You don't deserve, like, Fulgrim stabbing you. You don't deserve us shooting you or the kind shield. You deserve this. Bang. And a massive explosion.
Do Space Marines from other factions consider themselves, like, brothers or cousins or
Cousins,
family?
Definitely, yeah. There's definitely a level of, like, family-esque to it. They're all either, if you're in the same chapter, you're a brother. If you're in a fellow, like a successor chapter, they might still call you brother, but if you're in an entirely different legion, you're referred to as cousin.
No, I think, like,
they, like...
Like, the Sons of Horus and the Emperor's Children were quite close. I think they would like, different. Consider, like, if you had served with, like, because that also used to happen, is they would transfer, like, and do kind of, like, contingents amongst other legions, so they would, like, become brothers with them almost. So there was, like, legions that would spend time together during the Great Crusade, which, like, the Emperor's Children, the Sons of Horus did. The Ultramarines and another legion did. I can't think of who.
It was, well, at the time it was the Ultramarines and the Word Bearers that did that. That's why they had that's why that was so freaking personal when that whole thing happened. But yeah, and even now that still happens in the 41st millennia. It's not as, like, close, but back in the Horus Heresy, yeah, even guys that would work together with each other in different legions, they would refer to each other as brother. Actually, Sol Tarvitz and Tarek Torgadan have a moment down on, I think, the planet of Murder, and he even tells Sol, like, no, you served with us for a long time when you guys were just starting out. To us, you are our brothers. You are close to us. So if you have something to say, speak plainly as a brother. Don't speak to me as, like, from another legion. Tell me the truth.
Now, yeah, there's definitely some exemptions to that, because, like, the Dark Angels keep to themselves, and the Night Lords do.
Yeah.
I think even the Death Guard do, too. And Iron Warriors do.
I think the only kind of weird, like, thing the Dark Angels have is that rivalry between the Wolves, because their Primarchs had a fight, so now whenever they meet, they have to have this, like, honor duel of two guys. Yeah.
That checks out.
How are we going to honor the fact that our two Primarchs fought? Whenever we meet on the same battlefield, we're going to pick two guys and we're going to beat the shite out of each other.
Sounds like a play.
Yeah.
Honestly, the Space Wolves are so dramatic.
Yeah.
Just, like, whenever you meet somebody who's like, oh, I'm a Space Wolves fan, they're so hardcore, blah, blah, blah. They're, like, the most, like, dramatic, like, over-the-top, like, they make, like, the Emperor's Children look, like, rational and tame half the time, because the Space Wolves are so, like, we've
so
gotta be drunk and
They're...
our rituals and our games and our blah blah blah. Like,
They're literally the polar opposite of the Dark Angels. Like, polar opposite. Everything that they do, the Dark Angels do the exact opposite they do.
Well, it sounds like a Space Wolf person couldn't be, or Space Marine couldn't live life outside of something scheduled or ritual, or like it has to be down this mark and this mark only.
The word has to tell you what to do.
Wolf player, I have the excuse to go, wah!
And you have to be drunk all the time.
The person that misses their 7:05 coffee in the morning, my whole day is off.
That's a dark angel. That's a dark angel. Yeah, right there. Where's my 7 a.m. coffee? Kill that servitor.
Well, because there'd be a plan within a plan within a plan to make sure you had the 7 a.m. coffee.
Exactly, and it still didn't. That means the Fallen are involved. Oh wait, no, we're friends with them now. Crap.
That is such a weird development.
Weird.
To like if you're a hardcore Dark Angel, that would
someday.
Be a whole episode, because that is yeah, that is a weird direction.
That's a lot to unpack.
Yes, it is.
That's a lot to unpack. Wow.
Yeah.
What does Nurgle Snurgle know about the Fallen? Perfect. Next episode, the Fallen. Let's go.
I know that like Dark Angels were going around killing the Fallen, and now.
Did you know the Fallen were also Dark Angels?
Yeah. And then Lionel Johnson is coming back, but he's like, the Fallen are okay, and now the Loyalists, Dark Angels are like, huh?
Yeah, that didn't cause any kind of problems in the community at all whatsoever. No, it's fine.
They hadn't spent the last 10,000 years at the very whisper of a Fallen. They would pick up their entire like chapter and go across the galaxy and abandon all of their allies and everything they were currently doing just to maybe possibly find a single Fallen.
Yeah.
I also do realize now that there's probably friends out there that have been viciously fighting back and forth for years about, we're loyalists. No, you're not loyalists. You're loyalists. No, you're not loyalists. Imagine that awkward conversation now.
I mean, okay, you know what? To maybe start the conversation though. If you were the Lion, would you want to hang out with the Fallen, who are mostly like Chaos Space Marines that like are actually probably like atheistic still and are just kind of like bombing around the Imperium, because the Imperium is also like gone, and they're the ones that are just kind of like, we're just trying to like keep stuff going on, like we've just been trying to like help where we can and doing your own thing, or
we're surviving.
Crazy religious like extremists that are your
right.
The Dark Angels chapter, who have been like just like absolutely insanely upholding like all of the
who couldn't tell you the truth if it saved their life.
Right. You're like, given the choice, as the Lion, you'd be like, who do I want to hang out with right now?
I have a weird feeling that if someone had a gun to the Emperor's head and was like, who's the Fallen? Who is the friggin' Fallen? They'd still be like, never heard of the Fallen.
So, you know what? I can 100% see the Lion being like, these guys are cool. You guys are weird. We got some stuff to talk about, guys.
Yeah.
It even says he's
common ground, guys.
You know what? I'm not gonna say any more because we can save that for another episode.
To kind of circle back to the Rylanor thing. So did he die before the bomb went off?
The bombs were killed. Yeah.
He died in the yeah.
Okay. So like Fulgrim didn't kill Rylanor.
Well, Fulgrim wanted to corrupt him. Fulgrim was trying to turn him into like a demon.
Yeah. Oh, he kept him all. Oh.
So Fulgrim was actually trying to like
really
ripped him out to then like convert him to
Put
chaos
him on the edge.
to like turn. I don't know. Maybe try and turn him into a demon prince or something. Because I mean, at that point, Rylanor kind of earned ascension if he wanted it.
Do you need much of your being to be a demonhood?
Yeah,
Demon Prince?
You need a lot. It's like to become a demon prince. It's the whole idea of that step on the line of becoming, on your way to becoming a ascended demon as a Chaos Marine. It's like walking a tightrope with a pit of lava below you, because it's a question of, can your body handle that much power? Can your body handle that much like change at once?
Right.
Because that's why most times in every iteration of the Chaos Marine Codex that has had some form of chart or any way that we've been able to transform into a Demon Prince mid-game, there's always been the caveat that if something goes wrong, you turn into a Chaos Spawn. Yeah. If your body can't handle that gift from the Chaos Gods, you will become a spawn. I have a strong feeling that it would have happened with Rylanor, because seeing as how he's not really following a Chaos God, it would do Fulgrim even better to twist him into a Chaos Spawn and watch him writhe and freak out at his side and have him to live through that, and maybe even feed Rylanor as
make him a pet.
Yeah, keep him alive. That was too much. That's why.
And that's what the sorcerers kind of saw. Like, don't make Rylanor your pet.
Yeah, he deserves better than this. He deserves what he wanted, to die in an explosion with you. He deserves that.
Right.
It's the most honorable way that Rylanor could have left, and to see this happening to Rylanor, he made a beacon, got these guys there, squared off against Fulgrim, detonated the bomb, and even when it didn't detonate, he stood his ground and fought a losing battle against his primarch and still spit in his face in defiance, though he was being attempted to be corrupted with his last breath. That was enough for a traitor to feel what a loyalist would have felt a long time ago and decide that he deserves to have the end that he wanted.
I can't help but to think that Fulgrim was a little bit of a coward there, in the sense that he probably purposely let the Thousand Suns go before him to check out the beacon, and now
I don't know that
100% check it.
And now he shows up.
Fulgrim is canonically a little bitch.
Yes, canonically he is a punk. He's had his face smashed. He's been choked out. He is a punk.
He is both one of the most dangerous and one of the most cowardly Primarchs simultaneously. He's he will kill ridiculously powerful beings, but then simultaneously it's just no, I don't want to actually
he's that kid that throws the ball
hard.
Yeah.
He's that kid that throws the ball over the fence. He goes, you go
get
it.
Yeah, I don't want to go over there. I don't like them.
Except he also secretly stabbed the ball, so when you do go get it, the ball's also now broken, and then when you come back around, he's also gone.
Across the street.
Or ask, why'd you deflate the ball?
Right, yeah.
Why'd you break the ball?
I guess we're not playing anymore if you're gonna break the ball.
God, this is your fault. Now you owe me.
Just gaslights everyone around him. Yeah, no. Fulgrim is the worst.
Well, that's all he does. That's literally, he tries to gaslight people all the time.
He literally tries to gaslight Rylanor. Rylanor's like,
no.
Life Eater bomb to the face.
Yeah,
That's how you defeat gaslighting people.
At the end of that whole
Just
thing,
say no.
when Fulgrim pulled his way out of the rubble after how long it took him to rebuild himself back, that's the best part, is he didn't get that satisfaction of turning Rylanor and killing him himself, and that was enough for Rylanor.
Yeah.
His last moments were of happiness because he was able to defy and deny Fulgrim to his last dying breath, and that hurts Fulgrim more than any defeat because he's a prideful little bitch.
How did he just walk away from
all the way like a
would.
punk?
That's gonna be the back of his head forever.
Yeah, someone's gonna be like, "Hey, how's Rylanor?" Shut up! I don't want to talk about it. Go to my room.
I killed him.
Plays emotional gods music in his room.
Yeah, I wonder if he tells people that he killed Rylanor, because no one else was there.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what? I can actually see him sending out demons to try and find Rylanor's soul in the warp, just to out of a desire for vengeance. There's just there's a squad of demonettes just combing through the warp trying to find Rylanor.
Is there just floating souls in the warp?
The warp isn't really reality the way we perceive it. It's just kind of it's just there.
Yeah, it is and it isn't. You, in the same way you could imagine a little orb of light floating around as a soul, someone else might see an entire human body just walking down a road. It's a place of it doesn't make any sense. It's the only way I've ever been described the warp, and I've read it through all the Chaos books, but the best one was for me was the Chaos realm is vast and yet tiny. It is everything and yet nothing. It is all of the emotions you can think of at once, and at the same time, silent. Things constantly shift. Lands move all over the place. Like, if whatever you imagine, the warp is going to form around what you believe it to be. If you believe it, like the Thousand Suns, to be a sea of souls, when they go into it, it's a massing, whirling tide of colors and shapes that form into creatures when you think about them. To others, it's a realm. Maybe like a floating rock in the middle of nowhere with these realms that look like the Chaos realms of each of the gods. For others, it could be hell.
So it can be everything, but it can also be nothing.
Exactly.
That's probably why like the Chaos Space Marines go to the Eye of Terror, because that is that's more like real space in a warp storm. So it's like both the warp but also still material, like reality. So there is at least some rules left, and like the planet of the sorcerers is in the Eye of Terror. That's where like the Thousand Suns hang out. So there is like, it's very loose reality, but there is at least like you can go to sleep and wake up and the planet's still there. It'll have changed a lot, but it at least is still there. Whereas in the warp, there's not actually like an up, a down, ground, sky, like nothing.
Yeah. Even time doesn't mean anything. Yeah. The traders, like even amongst the traders themselves, time is different for all of them. You can talk to one Chaos Space Marine, and the Horus Heresy happened 10,000 years ago. You can talk to a group of other guys, and for them, it was only a couple hundred years ago. And you can talk to some other guys like Abaddon, and it was yesterday. Like days ago. It's weird. It's a very, very, very strange place, and what it does to the mind is pretty horrific. So you're not
BloodGod's speaking spicy today.
I know.
Oh, fired up.
Fired
up. You know what? It's been a long time since I've talked about Warhammer, so it's probably just a lot in the tank that's been waiting to get out.
But we'll have to do a few more lore episodes to get them out.
I think so. I've been doing D&D for the past little while. I haven't really talked about Warhammer for a while. This is nice. It's a very.
You know what? I'm gonna say something that might be a hot take. I know D&D has a lot of lore, and I know there is a deep lore to D&D, but compared to Warhammer lore, it is.
I would rather do Warhammer
lore. It's not even bad. It's dull. It's like it's so like uninterestingly presented.
D&D lore,
like even like
I don't see as many people as like excited to talk about lore or to theorize about lore with D&D like they do with Warhammer.
You know why? Because they don't leave a lot of room for theorization. Yeah. Like Warhammer, you can make theory. D&D, I kind of feel like I'm reading from a textbook.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like
you're learning it, yeah.
These are hard facts that you got to know, but the great thing is you don't have to. You can just make stuff up, which I'm doing with my own thing as well. But yeah, it's a lot. It's very different. There's a vastly more amount of gods. There's a more amount of realms and cities and people and named characters, and this person knows this person, that person knows that person, and there's time travel. It's like Warhammer 40k, but it's a lot crazier.
Yeah, I think it's part of the even if you look at dull. Like
same time dull.
How lore is presented in like a 40k codex versus like a D&D rulebook. It's so much more just like you said, it's a textbook with D&D, whereas like 40k is often like a series of narratives that tell like it's almost like a codex almost is like a collection of short stories that then tell a bunch of different like elements of it, so it sticks with you better too. Whereas like unless you read any of the D&D books, which I have read a lot of them, I was a big Dragonlance nerd when I was a teenager, but yeah, that one way is better. But yeah, 40k is definitely easier to like get lost in, so we're happy to have you get lost with lore with us.
I love it.
And they
okay. Oh, sorry, I was gonna circle back to Rylanor.
I was just gonna thank y'all for
Yeah.
indulging my Emperor's Children lore episode idea because I
Okay, when you presented the idea, I was like, let's do one about Rylanor. I was like, who? What?
Right.
Why?
Yeah, we can definitely do the
But that's perfect because it's like exactly who, what, why, and why. Rylanor.
But it allows us to also, like, Rylanor is also a lens to look at, like, the earlier Emperor's Children and to talk about, like, why do they have the Palatine Aquila? Like, the whole Emperor's Children being, like, you know, commanders of other legionaries is, like that's also part of their fall, and it's part of their lore that, like, Rylanor helps tell that story of that, like, the Emperor's Children as paragons of, like, Space Marines also helps show, like, they then so, like, horrendously fall, and it's because they can be both. They can be both the best and the worst. And even in, like, 40k, I think they still embody that, like, they can be both the best and the worst of an Astartes. And Rylanor sort of shows the, like, the best.
Yeah, the absolute, like, completely honor bound and driven to his duty.
Now, I did want to ask, like, why and how is he being memed?
I'm seeing there's, like, this whole speech, somebody made a music video to it recently. There's like this, like, heavy metal, like, version of the speech, and it's actually pretty good. You should check it out on YouTube. And it's literally just, like, Rylanor and Fulgrim yelling at each other, and to this, like, really heavy, like, metal music that's, like, just pumps it up. I think that might have been what kind of brought it back. Is, like, that was a few months ago that came back, but I've been seeing, like, now there's a bunch of people doing more videos about Rylanor, because I think it's the same response you have of, like, who the fuck is Rylanor?
And why should we care?
A lot of the memes out there, if you look at them, it's a lot of, like, respect to Rylanor.
Is it like his last years or his last moments being alive?
His last moments of defiance and what he represented, there's a level of just, like, there's honor and respect in what he did. It's like it's hard to explain. It's like,
well, he literally waits 10,000 years to get vengeance, and then actually does.
Even against all odds, like, still almost being foiled, and even when, like, that, for me, it's that particular moment. Even though he is still lost, he's being torn apart, and the Primarch looks like he's gonna win. That phrase he says rings true. I deny you now and forever.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do, nothing you can say. You can corrupt my body, you will not corrupt my spirit and my will.
Well, for 10,000 years, he was ready to
die,
suicide himself. Yeah.
He was ready. He was waiting for it.
But he didn't even, it wasn't about the death, though. It was that he wanted to hurt Fulgrim for what Fulgrim did to him and his legion. Like, Rylanor sees it.
But he knew, though.
Yeah, but, like, Rylanor sees it as, like, Fulgrim ruined his legion. Like, that's also part of this. Rylanor, like, looks Fulgrim in the eyes and is like, you ruined my legion. You took what was beautiful and made it ugly. You took what was good and made it bad. Like, you are despicable and disgusting, and I hate you, and I will hate you forever, and there's nothing you can do about it because you are trash. And then, like, tries to detonate a, like,
I get it. So he's basically just, Fulgrim wants to be perfect, but here is Rylanor saying, you are not perfect. You did everything wrong. You perfectly did it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like if you take somebody like Fulgrim and all that pride and that, like, self-deceit and, like, all the lies Fulgrim tells himself, and Rylanor took a, like, spear of truth and just shattered it in his heart so that the shards will never come out. Fulgrim will always know that Rylanor thought he was awful.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Did the Primarchs feel like the legions were made for them?
They were encouraged to feel that way. Like, the Space Marines are genetically predisposed to, like, obedience to the Primarchs. The Primarchs are genetically, like, predisposed to feel superior and, like, to feel this, like, fatherly role.
Yeah.
even though they came late.
Even though they went for the cigarettes and milk for way too long, yes.
I mean, the Chaos Gods were a little
Technically, aren't
involved
they
on
the
that part of
sons?
that. They kind of shoot them away, but
Because isn't it like, so a Primarch is the Emperor and a little bit of like the gene seeds from the Space Marines?
Yeah, to a point. Yeah, it's the Emperor's DNA, whatever things he got from the Chaos Gods, and a little bit of genetic makeup from each one of the Primarchs.
So aren't the Space Marines the fathers and the Primarch is the sons?
no, the gene seed for the Space Marines comes from the Primarchs. Like the Primarchs were first, and then
Oh,
the Emperor has the gene seed for all the legions, so he seeded the legions on Terra. So like that's why there's like
before the Primarch.
yeah. So
okay.
like Fulgrim.
So Rylanor should have been the father of, or I guess
timeline
co-father.
Here's how it works timeline wise. So the Emperor needed to create an army, but first to create an army he needed generals. So he went to a gate, went into the realm of chaos, made a deal with the Chaos Gods to get whatever he needed, came back, used whatever he got plus his own DNA, and made the Primarchs.
Right.
While he had them, he was already taking genetic makeup from the Primarchs to create the gene seed. Primarchs then get thrown across the galaxy, so he takes that gene seed, an imperfect gene seed, not perfect, like a raw gene seed, and implants it into the Space Marines. That's why we saw so many flaws with each of the Space Marine legions. And that's why some of them got better when the Primarch was found and their gene seed could be refined and turned into something like actually useful, and others not so much.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and then there was a whole thing on the moon where they cloned a bunch of Space Marines, and that's a whole other story. But yeah, that's also part of that whole
So what was there before the Primarchs?
Thunder Warriors.
Before the Primarchs was the Thunder Warriors.
And they weren't quite Space Marines.
No.
Yeah.
They were actually stronger.
They were genetically... Yeah. They were genetically enhanced humans, but they didn't have the capabilities or the equipment that the Space Marines did. Most of it was just they had... they wore a lower suit of armor that was mechanized and attached to a backpack that could like energize it and move it, but their upper armor was just something they could slide on to protect them. It wasn't a sealed suit like the Space Marines. The other thing was that because of all the genetic the shenanigans the Emperor had been doing to them, they weren't exactly mentally stable, and civilian casualties happened a lot. So the Emperor eventually deemed them obsolete once he had the technology to make the Space Marines. And then there was a battle where all of the Thunder Warriors were killed, though they were able to destroy the enemy, and they took victory for the Emperor, and the Emperor will go forward and use their memory and their honor and create the new Space Marines. In reality, the Thunder Warriors defeated the enemy, and as soon as they turned, the Emperor ordered the Custodies to cut down all of the Thunder Warriors, because they are obsolete and he had no longer a use for them.
That is also one of the
which is one of the
secret purposes of the Custodies. They are
Yep.
They're there to kill Space Marines when they're no longer useful.
Yep. That's their main job. And that's another reason why the Horus Heresy happened, because they found out about that and they thought that, well, if the Emperor's willing to do that to them, what is he going to do to us when we're no longer useful?
And when Magnus has a vision of being on the Golden Throne for eternity, and Kurz sees the Emperor killing him, and Chaos presents a vision to Horus of the horrors of the future. Like, there's a lot of like, maybe there's not a good plan for us. Like, literally the first book, Horus Rising talks about them being like, because it was getting to the point they were like, okay, there's not a lot of galaxy left to crusade in. Like, what happens to us? And like, that's one of the big concerns. Like, the reason the lodges are successful is part of it is they are all worried about what their purpose is, and they're trying to just talk about it.
Yeah.
Are they trying to make themselves a purpose?
Well, some of the Primarchs would talk about it. I know Horus told his legion that it's most likely expected of all of you to become leaders and lords of planets, to like lead the people. So you'll have to be experts in not just war, but experts in other things like agriculture and stuff like that. Some of them had that belief. Other primarchs didn't buy it.
Just war.
Oh yeah.
Which, I mean, for like the Ultramarines, that probably would have worked because they're all pretty good at like administration. But like the Night Lords, no.
They're no.
Paperwork, what?
The Eaters, no. I have a strong feeling what would have happened would have been the Emperor would have decided which of the legions would not have worked in his new utopia, found a way to erase them, and kept the ones that were good until they were no longer useful, because his next step was to bring all of humanity into the Webway Gate. And once they're in the Webway Gate and they're away from chaos is no longer a threat. I no longer need Space Marines to worry about any of my threats. Therefore, you're all obsolete.
That's why it kind of makes sense for some of the Space Marines to turn traitor then, because then they're going to create more of a problem so that they don't get killed or become obsolete.
And that's why Chaos Marine players don't play Loyalists, for that exact reason.
That's the reason?
The Emperor's you know what?
He's
spicy.
Even like that's
that's spicy. I want to be spicy.
I mean, half the traitor legions are like the Thousand Sons are just like really bad at being loyal. The Alpha Legion is really bad at being loyal. Even the Iron Warriors to some extent were just like they were disgruntled. They were just like all they needed was like a good union negotiation with the Emperor, and Perturabo doesn't go.
And he just needed a hug.
Yeah.
He just needed a hug. He just needed the Emperor to say, "Good job, son." Just
not even a hug, just a pat on the back.
All he needed was just, "Good job, Perturabo. I'm proud of you. Excellent work." That would have solved so much.
I mean, I think they also needed breaks from the constant siege. Like the amount of Iron Warriors that got left on like
Perturabo, do me a favor.
Like during the heresy, like when they start when the Iron Warriors start regathering, and it's just like, oh, there was 3 to 4 of us left to hold planets forever, with no relief schedule, no plan to like have them do anything else. So they all just got bored and angry. If they had been like, hey, do you want to go to the like Iron Warriors golf planet for a couple years to like let off some steam and like go siege like something fun and kill some Xenos? Like, they just needed a vacation. They needed a vacation and a hug.
All he needed was a letter in the mail from the Emperor saying, "Hey Perturabo, can you and your legion build me 100 gazebos?" And he would have been very happy. He would be like, "I'm going to make the most beautiful gazebo he has ever seen."
During this time, were there other factions that were like receiving time off or
yes.
Ultramarines?
Yes. The favored sons would always get it. And to a point, the Emperor's children were a part of those favored sons for a little bit.
Yeah.
So that they would have parties. Meanwhile, Perturabo was doing work.
I wouldn't say parties, but there were definitely parades. A lot of like ceremony. Yeah,
that sounds like a party.
Think of just like, well, I mean, the people were having the party. The Marines were marching up and down the streets, presenting themselves to the people. To Marine, it's not about the partying. To them, it was about honor. To them, it was about being recognized for the deeds and the duties that they did. Which
the Iron Warriors needed.
Yeah, they needed that desperately, and they never got it. Meanwhile,
all Sanguinians had to do was smile, and the Blood Angels got a parade. Like,
yes.
And they're vampires.
Not even a joke. Oh, freaking pretty.
Did people know that they were vampires?
No, that was a very closely guarded secret.
Very, very.
Do the Dark Angels know?
Nope.
The Alpha Legion probably did, though.
The only one that knew about that. Oh, there's only one person that I know that knew about that, and he tried to use it to his advantage, was Horus.
Yeah, talking about the Blood Angels have always felt like a legion that was bad at being loyal. Like, they don't feel like the super loyalisty of legions, that's for sure.
But they're like the golden child. Like,
let's play a game with BloodGod. Let's count how many of the Blood Angels successor chapters aren't shifty. 1. Anyway,
it's like, is that a Khorne Berserker or a Blood Angel? How do you tell? Oh, the Blood Angel has less spikes.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
Like, I think their names speak for themselves. Let's look at it. Okay, you have the Blood Angels. Angels. All right, lovely. Blood. Okay, not too bad. Then you have the Flesh Terrors.
Yeah.
The Knights of Blood. The exsanguinators.
When I first
The
started,
blood drinkers.
when I started getting into the lore and you would talk about blood angels, I was so confused. I'm like, so they're not chaos?
You're right.
The flesh tears are not chaos?
The only one that
Okay.
doesn't sound like it is the angels in Carmine.
That's just, yeah. Like, I don't know. There's a.
The dark angels are loyalist? What?
That's also another one that you're just kind of like, are they though? Like, are the
Dark
fallen the bad
angels,
ones?
like-
I don't think the fallen are the traitors in that situation, because the dark angels do some messed up stuff.
There's only
But the
two
word
groups.
bearers are the bad guys. Okay.
There's only two groups we can ever really trust, and it's the Space Wolves, and that's barely, and the Salamanders, who I trust fully.
There's a few
The
successor
scariest
chapters that
looking Marines of them all.
there's a
What?
few like Ultramarines successor chapters that are super boring. They're like at least reliable.
Yeah.
But even the Ultramarines themselves, they're a little sus too. They do some weird stuff now.
They're still they still have the whole idea like I am holier than thou. They're basically the epitome of I am a holy monk in battle plate. Whereas at least the Salamanders, it's like, oh my god, there's some civilians over there. I'll go block the bullets with my body. Run, people, run.
You know who also doesn't feel like a super loyal chapter? The Black Templars.
Oh,
They are like
Oh,
one
I
step
know.
away from like I don't know. They're like partly worshipping Slanesh and partly worshipping Khorne. Like
well, when you go into the level of fanaticism they do, the only thing that keeps them apart from those two factions is them screaming, "Praise the
Like,
Emperor!
that's
Praise
it.
be! Praise be!" Instead of blood for the blood god or for the dark prince, it's just praise be.
So that's
follow
all
the
you need
Emperor."
to do is just say praise the emperor and you're a loyalist.
I guess so.
they literally like they
These
don't
guys
follow any
are, like-
rules, but they are the single strongest chapter, so no one can stop them.
They're not even a chapter. They're pretty much a legion right
Yeah.
now. So I don't know if you know the rules about the chapters, Nurgle Snurgle. Do you?
No, let's say no.
Okay.
I don't know if there's rules.
Gilman put rules a long time ago that
But the 10,000 cap?
actually only 1,000 can be in a chapter.
Oh.
Because the rule he surmised that no primarch or leader should ever have that much power ever again.
But he can.
No, even him. He that's why there's so many successor chapters of Ultramarines, because even Rabute Gilliman.
Loophole.
Well,
Yep.
okay.
He's separated.
Actually, though,
This is,
it was really more him and
Yes.
Dorn were about to start a civil war because Gulliman didn't want to give up
Yeah.
the Ultramarines, and Dorn was like, "If I have to give up my legion, you have to give up yours," and it was about to cause another civil war, and then Gulliman was like, "Fine, every legion has to go down to chapters."
Yeah, all of them fine.
At first, it was written, all but mine.
Literally, like, yeah, Gulliman
Now
was just
it's-
like, "But I can handle my legion, though."
I should clearly be the leader of the Imperium now that Dad is gone.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Magnus, no magic.
Yeah.
And then Sigismund is just like, actually, Dorn, I'm gonna go do like crazy forever now."
But there's not every chapter follows those rules. For instance, the Black Templars.
Clearly. Does anybody follow any rules?
Well, yeah, because everyone finds a loophole. The loophole for the Black Templars was, well, technically, if we're a crusading chapter, there's no rules that says how big we can get. So I think if I remember correctly, they're almost like 6,000 strong right now, aren't they?
I thought they were higher. I thought they were like
Well, probably now.
closer to 10,000.
That was like years ago.
But yeah, they're on a
They're
10,000
getting
year long
up there.
crusade.
Yep, 10,000 year long crusade. We need recruits as many as we can get, and they're religious fanatics.
Everything the Emperor wanted.
It's literally like I think Abaddon has been like the Black Templar are like the ickiest of the loyalist Marines to like Chaos Space Marines. They're just like, whoa,
Yeah.
those guys are nuts.
Yeah, you know what? Just chill. Yeah, they gotta like just they're a little bit much.
Yeah,
And I hang out with Lucius.
right. You're like Fabius Bile. He's cool in my books. Like Ahriman didn't do anything wrong, but the Black Templar, I don't go near that.
Oof. No, not going there. Like, man, I got to listen to them a little bit during the Beast Rises series, and it was cringy. They're just so cringy with how much they love the Emperor. It's just absolute like cringe.
It's a Rylanor level commitment, but without any of the understanding or of like Rylanor knew the Emperor, so Rylanor loved the Emperor in his heart because he had seen what the Emperor was. Black Templar, no context, no nuance, but same level of fervor.
Yeah, Emperor's a god, got it.
Anyways, we are so off track at this point. I think we gotta just any last thoughts before we I don't even know what to call this anymore. The Rylanor plus dunking on loyalist chapters episode.
The Rylanor / 40k rant.
Well, I'll just call it Rylanor plus.
There's always a 40k rant.
Well, I mean, you know what? It is kind of fitting because like Rylanor's story is relatively short in comparison to a lot of the other characters in the 40k universe, but it has such meaning. It hits a lot harder than a lot of the other ones, so it may not take up as much time as the rest, but it's probably going to mean a lot to our viewers out there and hit them a lot harder.
It's true.
Because it's him. It's Rylanor.
And he is the Ancient of Rites.
And after the sad stuff, we have to talk about some other stuff to make everyone, cheery again. So it's good. This is great.
Maybe Rylanor isn't dead in our hearts.
I almost cried, man. God. Rylanor.
We made BloodGod care about an Emperor's children.
Many theatrics.
That's a big
The Berserker loves an Emperor's children.
A loyalist Emperor's children at that too. Well, on that note, I want to thank you all for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to Chaos Divided wherever you're listening from, and you can catch us on Instagram and YouTube at Chaos Divided 40k. If you're a fan of what we're doing and you want to join our growing Wholesome Hammer community, you can find us on patreon.com/Chaos Divided 40k. Support the show, join the Discord, it's a good time. And if you'd like to connect with us directly, we're at Nurgle_Snurgle, at TeamBloodGod, and at Blushing Noise Arena on Instagram and YouTube. And until next time, bye-bye.
Ciao for now.
Hit the jazz music.
He did the thing.